Greetings everyone, my name is Etterville, and welcome back to my Let's Play of StarBreak. During the last part, I completed the tutorial and completed the Fire Forest. So now, as promised, I'm back on my main account, Etterville, and I did some off-screen grinding to level up all my boosts to max for Tier 1, as well as recover my old equipment. And because of defeating bosses, as well as exploring the Fire Forest more, I unlocked some better gear compared to what was shown in the previous part. So let me show off what I got before I move on to the next segment and talk more about the boost system in general. Alright, starting with the main, I got a modified R-Blast. It's about the same as it was before, aka shotgun weapon which does 8 to 18 points of damage, kind of a large spread, 160 speed, 360 milliseconds of lifetime, short range, and can fire 6 spread shots. So it's very powerful at short range, but you have to be really careful so you don't get hurt. Plus it has armor piercing, so it can pierce to shielded or armored enemies. We haven't seen any armored enemies in the Fire Forest, but we will start to see them in the Fungus Cave, and I think maybe the Vanquished mission, if I recall correctly. Next up, I have the modified Synthetic Frag. It does 100 to 140 points of damage, and it also has 100% armor piercing, so that's going to be really useful in the Fungus Cave. Next up, I have the Experimental Empowered Blast. I got this from defeating the Fire Forest boss. After all, the bosses in StarBreak will always have a gear that's one modifier up. I believe there are 4 or 5 modifiers, and one of them is experimental, and bosses always have a better upward spread of what modifiers you can get. And of course, the elite, in order to get the best gear, you need to defeat the elite bosses, who are found at the end of the elite versions of the zones. This one does 10 to 20 points of damage, but the main thing that makes it so useful is that it has 5 blasts, and is trisected, which I'll show off soon as well. I have the custom talons, plus 3 armor, plus 2 movement speed, plus 5 to jump height, the modified jerkin, which lowers my movement speed, but it does plus 5 points of damage, armor. If you want to be more careful with dodging shots, I strongly suggest getting stuff with a plus movement speed, or less of a subtraction of movement speed. But if you're a new player, I strongly suggest taking the high armor upgrades so you get better used to fighting enemies, and staying back and letting other players take the blows instead. And I also got these, but they're not really as useful as the other ones. Here's the blast. As you can see over here, I release 5 blasts when I shoot, so that's going to be really useful in other areas. And I can fire in all 4 cardinal directions, just like anyone. And here's my frag. It's nice that at Eschaton Station there's actually a statue where you can practice using your grenades. You can only use a limited amount though. Of course, this doesn't really show the armor piercing, sadly. But oh well, I'll be showing that off in more detail once I get to an armored enemy. Over here, just below the training dummy, is the item shop. Here you can purchase your you can purchase random items, which will randomly respawn over time. So it's a nice way of getting back up to speed if you really need a little bit better than basic gear. But in most cases, most of these items are Tier 1 or barely Tier 2, so I strongly suggest saving up your EC for other things. As there are actually shops in the middle of the stages, especially in the mid-tier stages, which have items that cost a ton of EC in order to buy, but they give much better stat boost compared to this. So really, unless you have a ton of energy crystals or energy credits to spare, I suggest avoid buying these things. You can find much better stuff more easily through the stages, especially with the buff and drop rates. Now let's talk about the boost system. Let's see here. As I said in the previous part, enemies, mini-bosses, bosses, and chests have the capability of dropping boosts, with the probability increasing from chests to mini-bosses to bosses. Once you collect a boost, it'll fill one of those notches in one of those tiers. It can either be max HP, ammo, damage, armor, speed, jump height, critical percentage, and critical multiplier. As you can see, my critical percentage is 1, and my critical multiplier is 1.8. And that translates there as now I can actually have a 1% chance of critically per every shot, and if I do, it'll deal 1.8 times damage. Now in order to collect boosts, as I said, you need to find them in the world, but there's a limitation to how many boosts you can collect. You can only collect up to n amount of boosts per tier. And for example, for the Fire Force, we'll only have boosts up to tier 1, or low difficulty missions in general, whereas medium difficulty missions will have boosts that drop in tier 2. Now, if you're in tier 1 or collecting a boost for your tier 1 or Mach 1 stats, you'll unlock one notch. But once you reach the max Mach 1 armors or stat boosts, if you collect another tier 1 boost, you won't get any boosts. You need to get a tier 2 boost or higher in order to boost up your progression by one notch. However, let's say you're at the tier 2 progression and you're leveling up your stats in tier 2, and you collect a tier 4 boost by going through a hard mission or very hard mission. If you do that, you'll only get one notch in your tier 2 progression. You won't get something like 3 or 4 notches. So it's best not to waste a tier 4 boost and just go run several tier 2 missions, collect the boosts, fill it up to max, and then move on to the tier 3 missions and collect boosts that way. It makes the progression much easier and safer, as you don't want to waste time and risk your character dying in a tier 4 mission and just get the progression to your tier 2 boost for the same time and easier effort if you just go for a tier 2 boost. And these are the main form of stat progression for each of your shells or classes. And it really helps as you collect more and more. As you saw before, I started only with 70 or 75 points of max health. 80 points of max health, and now I have 90. Not to mention my damage has been increased, my armor has been increased by 4 points. Especially as a new player, the damage, armor, and max HP upgrades will be really useful. The other ones are as well, especially with certain classes. Now, don't quote me on this one, but I think the boosts have different effects on the different shells. But I may be wrong. I'll need to check that out in more detail. Okay, with all those mechanical explanations set, let's actually go through a mission. Let's take a look at the Fungus Cave. I would recommend just going to the Vanquished instead of the Fungus Cave, because the Fungus Cave is harder compared to Vanquished, but considering there's already players over here in the Fungus Cave, I'll go. It is several steps up in difficulty compared to the Fire Force, so be careful. After all, it's medium difficulty and you can easily die. More easily die because of the enemy's harder patterns and tougher AI and whatnot. Okay, here we are. As always, follow where the rest of the players are going to survive better. And always try collecting treasure from these chests, because if you go a tier up, you have a better. It's usually going to be better than what you currently have. Not to mention, you can collect money, which will be useful for a whole bunch of other things. But as I was saying, the Fungus Cave is, compared to the Fire Force, it's much more claustrophobic. You have these close walls where you have to go through and fight all these enemies. And there are all these spikes that make it easy to just run into something. The enemies here are all variants of shrooms and fungus type enemies. And what makes them more dangerous is because they're tougher for projectile spread, and the fact that they come in more annoying patterns and are a lot easier to get hurt by. Plus, they are a lot more numerous in number and have more annoying patterns. Plus, the layout is a little bit more confusing than compared to just going left to right. Here's a fly enemy, if which got stuck in the wall. Well, the Fire Force is much easier to navigate because you can just go left to right, but here you have to go up and down, and you can kind of get lost and separated from other players, so be careful. Also of note, enemies are now going to start hiding in the walls, so please pay special attention so you don't get sniped or get instantly killed if you're on low health. Okay, let's continue on here. And then we also have a spread of a lot of different classes, so that's nice. I may die in this segment. Oh yeah, and these glowing blue pools over here, they will restore your health up to max for one time, for one usage. Of course, I can't really show off any. Okay, now it is. Ow, that was my mistake. Sorry about that. Here we have these snails. The snails will actually rev up when you get close enough to them, and then it'll zoom right past you. And while they're zooming, you can't really hurt them unless you have armor-piercing weaponry, like I do. So if you see them boosting, get away, jump over them, and then when they hit the wall, then you can hurt them. Normally there would be a mini-boss over here, I believe, but apparently it didn't spawn or the other players killed it already. And of course, because this is a tier 2 region, we can collect boosts, as you see over here. Like +2 max HP. Here we have the flies, which slowly move towards you in set intervals. And we have the... ow. And we have all those mushrooms... oh boy. And we have all those mushrooms which throw poison spores at you at set intervals. Here's a very tough enemy which can fire sonars, can do a spike pattern like that, and charge into you, I believe. They do a ton of damage, so be careful and try attacking them from long range. Oh! I'll certainly take this one. But as you saw, those mushrooms deal a ton of damage. I took 14 points of damage in just one blow, and I'm already at 70 health. So yeah, this is the point in the game where your health can easily evaporate quite fast if you're not in a group. And that's why I strongly suggest, if you have the choice, go to the Vanquish mission first, as that's a lot more forgiving in comparison to this one. And that one isn't as claustrophobic as this cave mission. Plus, that doesn't have an instant death trap at the end of this mission. You'll see what I mean when we get to the boss fight. And we have those clam monsters we can jump around and do things. But as long as you're careful, you should be able to survive. Of course, this is one of those places where it's much better to have a long-range weapon rather than a shotgun, so you have a better chance of hitting things without getting hurt yourself. Oh. Oh, well, sorry about that. Hold on for a second. I got... oh. Oh yeah, and those things at the top, they can release bubbles, which will hurt you if you go in contact with them. But as long as you have no enemies, they aren't too bad. Oh good, health. I don't really have fabricators yet. Ooh. What does this do? Where are you? I'll just use that instead. By the way, you can see what the performance settings of what your current performance settings are by pressing P. Okay, here's the boss fight in this hole. If you're not prepared, make sure to teleport out. Oh, whoa. Okay, we went directly to phase 2, so I'll need to go to the Fungus Cave again to show what's going on. Okay, you need to destroy these, Oh yeah, the flies are annoying as usual. Oh, whoa. And there's an instant death trap at the bottom, because if you fall right in the mouth of that beast, you're going to die instantly. So stay on the top as much as possible so you don't die. And if you see the ground shaking, jump out of the way, because this giant worm is coming, and that'll do a huge amount of damage if you get hit by it. And in this phase, when it's going up, you have to hit the worm on the left side of the screen, which has its tongue open, or on the right side of the screen, whichever one it is. You really need to figure out which one it is, and once you destroy it, the giant worm will rev up and it'll start appearing. That's your cue to start attacking it. Of course, you should combine with other players so you can actually hit the side that's vulnerable. And yeah, these worms will release all these annoying flies, which are even more dangerous in this boss fight, because you can get knocked into the instant death trap. At least, the good thing is though, the good thing about this boss fight though is that because of the increased drop rate, those flies have a better chance of actually releasing those flies have a better chance of releasing health restoration items. Before, they were a lot more rare, so that's nice. Oh, there we go. See, there's the instant death trap at the bottom. As you can see, if you fall right in there, you'll get eaten immediately by the worm, and that's it. And now its weak point is open, so we have to attack the fleshy part of its left side. Oh. Whoa. And yeah, those worms do also deal a ton of damage if you're not careful. Get ready. Okay, it's the... Oh boy. Get to the other side? That wasn't my intention, but okay, whoa. And yeah, there I died. That was because of the annoying flies. Ugh. That's why I hate the flies in this stage so much. They can easily just knock you into pits if you're not careful, which I wasn't. Oh well. Once you die, invariably like I do, you'll see a stat screen of what missions you accomplished, and based off of all the accolades, damage, gear, whatever else, you'll get bonuses, and it'll all be tallied up to score, which will then be added to your experience total for unlocking classes. Kind of sad, but oh well. I died as a Wildfire Mach 2, but you kind of should expect that. Expect to die a lot in this game, basically. Oh well. And it's kind of sad because everyone else was able to do it. Too bad. I was so close to defeating the Foss, but oh well. Sad as it is, that's part of the game. Oh, and I locked the Duskwing. But I will be playing the Duskwing a little bit later. Alright, and because we have the stash, we can now recollect this. I can get back to where I was, approximately. That's one of the main advantages of you having the... This is one of the main reasons why you have the stash, for storing stuff that you really want to get used for getting back up to speed. So now, even though I have a slightly weaker weapon, I'm not all the way sent backwards in terms of progression. Although sadly my grenades are kind of bad. Let me drop all of this, and unfortunately I lost all my boosts. Oh sure, let's try the Fungus Cave again and see what happens. I see there's a Vanquish mission over there, but... well, might as well. If I fail again, well, I'll end this part, and in the next part I'll just do the Vanquish mission. Oh, this is not recommended doing it alone, but at least we can see what the Fungus Cave is as a beginner, or from the beginning. That thing on the bottom, it'll open and close, and once it opens up to max, it'll release all those poison spores. Get in the bottom and attack it to do damage. Ooh, compound repeater. I'll pick it up just in case I have some use for it in the future. But as I said before, on permadeath you lose all of your stat boosts, and you lose all of the stuff that you had equipped. Basically, anything you had on your person is gone, as well as all of your stat boosts. Thankfully, you get experience, which wasn't the case several months ago, where there wasn't actually any experience system. Well, the main reason why there's an experience system now is for unlocks. In the version several months ago, the way that unlocks worked was based off of what missions you completed. Now it's a mix of what missions you completed and what experience level you're at. Of course, I need to be really careful while traversing through these areas because I don't have any armor boosts. So any damage I take here is going to be a lot more devastating. But hey, let's see how far I can go. After all, variety is the slice of life, and all this risk makes it a little bit more fun to play as. Plus, I do have a longer range weapon, so I don't need to worry about getting up in the face of all the enemies. As up in face. Sadly, I can't fire directly upwards. That would have made things a lot simpler. And by the way, a less annoying version of those flies can also spawn from, or can drop from the top of the ceiling. You can technically see it if you're careful, as well as those slimes. In fact, one of the main modes of the stage is that there are a lot of things that are on the top part that are hanging from the top part of the stage, which can sneak up on you if you're not careful. It pays to take a risk sometimes. What was that? Well, I suppose it's a gear from something. And as always, if you go off the beaten path, there's usually some treasure or gear you can get. Like in this case, I got a modified contrived frag, which is trisected. Wonderful, now I actually have almost better gear than I had before. And this is all thanks to the change in the itemization system and the boost in the item drops. Sure, there were item drops before in the original version of the game, which I played several months ago, but not at this rate and not as generous. The game before was a lot more unforgiving personally, but now I feel like it's more fun to play as a newbie, or even as an experienced player. And the game hasn't gotten easier at all, no. With the addition of the with some new elite areas, and the final Star Cathedral area, whatever it's called, added, the game has gotten a lot more challenging or skill-based. But thanks to the itemization changes and difficulty progression smoothing, it's a lot more fun to get into, personally. That's also one of the reasons why I've gotten back. I only made it up to the underground base during my last Let's Play that I scrapped, but I didn't really like where the game was getting too difficult, and it felt like getting back into the game after dying took too much effort, which made me take less risks overall because I didn't want to have to restart and spend a lot of time grinding to get back to what par I was, or where I was before. But with all these changes, I don't need to worry about it too much. Oh yeah, and it can also do... Okay, it can do ground shocks as well. That's nice to know. And when it does raise up those spikes, it's completely shielded to damage. Whoa, I didn't see you there. I'll take the custom repeater. It deals more damage, so... Of course, damage isn't always everything, but I don't really have a use for armor piercing yet. Explosive is nice because it allows me to hit multiple enemies at once. Or more enemies at once. Whoa. Oh yeah, and that hive over there, that'll continuously spawn these flies every so often. Oh yeah, and I completely forgot that I have the trisected grenade. That's going to be really useful in the boss fight. And especially when you're traveling to these regions, don't jump down blindly. That's your one-way ticket to dying pretty fast, in my experience. Not unless you're really experienced with going through these stages. And as you saw, yeah, especially this level, any damage you can take can be quite lethal. I really need some health packs soon. There we go, thank you. At least the health packs seem to be more generous in the higher and the more difficult stages. Like before, those health packs would only restore about 10 to 12 points of damage in the Fire Forest, but now they're restoring up to 20 or 25. Let's see what we have in here. Oh, okay. Just more money. Let me take a look at something. Okay. I'm always a little bit... Oh yeah, and you can also change the graphic settings by just using the open-close bracket settings. As you can see, from plain, a little bit more shadow, more clouds, more ambience. 1, 2, 3. But enough dallying with that around. I meant to press P. Where are you, P? So I just want to see what my performance is because I'm playing on the web version, and there can sometimes be some strange performance drops, in my experience. And as you may notice, because my repeater has a modifier which allows it to bounce at least one time when it hits a wall, so that's nice. Oh boy! Whoa. Any 2 attacks or knack will probably be lethal to my health. We really should be destroying that nest. Whoa! I wish I could get close enough to get that armor. There we go. Let's see what we have here. Definitely will take that. Oh darn, I need to... Oh, what happened there? Okay, this does 100% precision, so... You actually may have noticed that when I'm firing for a continuous period of time, for my normal shots... Oh. Usually what would happen is after a while of shooting, as I was saying, my shots would have a lot of dispersion. Or it wouldn't fire straight ahead, it would fire at a more curvy pattern. I forget the formal term of that. I know there's a term for it in FPSs. Cone of fire. After I fire for a long period of time, my cone of fire increases quite a bit, so my shots become much less precise. But with this repeater, that'll never happen. My precision is at 100%. Ow. I keep forgetting my damage has been kind of nerfed, so I can't really destroy these fast enough. Oh yeah, I forget. I know there's treasure here, but of course these highs will keep spawning. There we go, thank you. Oh, what did I get? Okay. There's all the gear I can get. And of course I'm taking a whole bunch of damage in the process. I'll get out of here. This is not worth it. I'm getting out of here. I need more help to survive soon. I need one more hit and that's it for me. I really need one of those regen pools. Oh, and here's a slime. If you hurt it enough, it'll split into mini slimes. As you can see over there. There we go. I finally a safer position. The danger about this is that if you don't have piercing weapons, you can easily get swarmed by them and take a whole deal of damage. Oh, I missed it. Kind of unfortunate, but oh, whoa. And I think we lost most of our players, too. Ow. Yeah, those mini mushrooms can charge at you, which can be kind of scary if you're in an enclosed situation like here. Really, the design of this stage, because of its claustrophobic feel, makes it a lot easier to get hit by these enemies, especially the throwers. This is one of the stages where having an ironclad who can shield projectiles will be very useful, but sadly we lost our ironclad. Oh boy. You know what? I'm out of here. I can't take this enough. I'm taking too much damage. I will not survive any other hit. After all, it's fine if you need to escape. One of the mottos of this game is don't be greedy, and, well, I don't want to face another unfortunate death, so I'm escaping. Well, this seems like a good point in order to end this part. Alright, to summarize what happened, I went to the Fungus Cave, I died in the boss fight due to getting knocked into the mouth due to the fly. Apparently that wasn't actually instant death as I recall, it just does a huge amount of damage. And now I realize I could just blast over to the left side to get out. Oh well, hindsight. So, I went to the Fungus Forest again, without most of my boosts. I collected a lot better gear. As you can see over here, I'm almost back up to par. But I had to escape because I lost most of my friends, and, well, I went down to 16 health, so any more hits would kill me. So let's store up all this good stuff. That'll be useful for the ironclad, I'll take that. I'll keep the custom compound repeater. And I'll drop the rest over here and so that other people can use it. Alright then, so in the off screen, I'll do some grinding to get up to at least tier 2 in terms of armor, or in terms of stat boosts, and then in the next part, well, I'll be trying to go to the Vanquished mission. This one. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day. Toodles!